Okay, for the remaining of this class, we'll be diving into inventory and manufacturing modules. Okay, so I have a very, very short presentation for you because usually just hands-on things. Okay, but just kind of a guideline for me, basically, not for you. Okay. All right, so if you go, oh, okay, I need to log in. Oh, one thing I want to mention real quick because I think this is more like a bug in the system. So last time I had problem with point of sale, and I figured out the way to get around it, although this is probably a bug. So usually an open source system like this, it's generally a bug because the system is so complicated. Sometimes they change one thing and then it kind of affects the other thing. But then usually people find it and reports it, and then it gets fixed at some point. So right now, this system, it's not the most updated version. So if I were to update it, this bug might be gone away or not, I'm not sure. But right now, I don't want to update anything because actually they just changed the entire layout of the site. If I were to update it, then it will look different, and then you guys will get disorienting. So I'll just keep it like this. But I'll let you know, I'm just going to show you the problem and then how I get around it. Okay, so what happened is like last time I was trying to do a point of sale. So usually when we do point of sale, I go to selling, right? And I create something called the opening entry. So think about, in the morning, you open the cashier with some change, right? That's the opening. Right? And then at the end of the day, you close the sessions. Okay, so right now, let's say I want to open the new sessions, right? So I just click on it, right? You don't have to do it after me. I just want to record this so that you're aware of this particular bug, right? So I add the opening entry. So usually, if things go well, then I usually get this, which is start date, right? And then usually it will just fill in this particular user that needs to be the cashier, right? So that's something that I expect automatically, right? And if that's the case, then there's no problem. Like I can create the profile. So this profile is basically saying, what type of products do I want, and then what type of, what accounts do I associating with the write-off money and things like that. Okay, so I just create a cashier, profile, and then I saved, right, and I submit. So no problem at all, right? And then I can go ahead to perform my actual sale by going into POS, and there's going to be a new menu that I mentioned that there's no link on the navigation because I don't know why this one is specifically from there, but I can use it, no problem, okay? And let me show you that if I were to perform the point of sale, right? I choose customer, and then I just pick one product, okay, like that, and then I check out. Okay, nothing, no problem here, right? And then I just do complete order. So this guy, I collect money from him. I give him the stuff, okay. And then when I'm done, so let's say I do this many times throughout the sessions, and I want to close the sessions, right? So I just do here, and then just close POS. So close the cashier for today. Basically, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so I close the cashier, which there will be another summary where I can see, what have I sold, and then if I, return the same amount of change that I took at the beginning and things like that. And if there's a discrepancy, I will just do write off account. Okay, so anyway, I'm just gonna submit, right? Okay. Okay, and this is where the little bug occurs. So if I were to open another opening entries, right? I go to selling, and then I go to POS opening entry. So same process like last time, like what I just did, right? But here's the thing: if I were to add right now, actually it doesn't do this, okay? Which is fine. I mean, dates I can always input it in, but the problem that I have is that this particular field is not filled in automatically. And if I, like last time, I was trying to, okay, so I want to input my account because I'm going to do it, right? And it doesn't show it up. And that's the problem, okay? So this problem is, I speculate that it has to be something through the filtering system right here. So this one, for some reason, if I were to do it again, the filter get modified or deleted or something, and it just happened that I cannot search for my account, which is quite strange, right? I want to do it, like it doesn't let me, right? And here's the workaround, which is quite, I guess understandable, but very, very random, which is if I were to just go back here, right, to this page, and I just refresh my entire site. Now it works. Okay, so what I did, it just refreshed the page. So my speculation is that maybe during that closing of the POS, something in the memory got changed. So then when I open the POS entries again, then maybe that change that got into the memory, it kind of breaks the form, okay? So, but then if I were to do the full refresh, so then that clear everything, pull everything back from the database, and then it works again, okay? So this type of bugs is generally present, and it's possible that this thing is present because if something breaks after a certain steps, then it's hard to catch bugs. So usually people test it a lot, right? And if there's a bug that is very glaring, then usually it gets fixed right away. But something like this, where if you have to do a lot of things and then this thing occur, then that is a more, I guess, obscure bugs. And if I want to help the community, I should report this. And I in the past, I did report something like this, and it gets fixed too. So it's a community effort. So maybe if I go through this one a little more in detail and can describe how to reproduce the bug, I can submit it, and then people will take a look at and then fix it. So something like that. So that's what it is. Okay. So so this doesn't happen to me previously. So it must have get introduced by other changes in the system, because this is so complicated that it can occur. Okay, so that's another thing where if you own a company like multi-billion-dollar company, you want somebody to take care of it right away. And that's the price that you pay for like really expensive software. Like they have to come and fix you right now. But for this, nobody will help you, right? Because you don't pay anybody's money. And that's another thing to be concerned, right? If you're going to use this for real, okay. All right, so let's go back to inventory, right? Or stock, maybe. Somebody calls stock, I call it inventory, okay. So we're going to take a quick glance into the stock module, okay. And already you have used it under the hood, throughout your sales cycle and purchase cycle. You have already modified the stock transaction, and you already use it. But we're going to take a look into how we're going to manage it, maybe in a more, I guess, from the stock manager point of view. Okay. So first, stock. Like when I think of stock, I think of it almost like an accounting. It looks the same to me, in a way that in an accounting you have account where you store some number, right? In the stock, you have warehouse where you store some number, but it's not the transaction money, right? It's just the stuff that you have inside your warehouse, items basically, right? And in the accounting, you have account ledger that keep track of the transaction, like how does the things are changing your account. In the stock module, you have stock ledger where you have the entry that dictates how the number in the warehouse will change. So it's almost like parallel things to me between the stock and the accounting ledger. But I think I might have mentioned this before, because in the system where you have dedicated stock ledger and the accounting ledger, it gives you more flexibility in managing the stock and the accounting in a more flexible way. And this is something that is not present in the accounting software. In the accounting software, you will only have accounting ledger. You will not have stock ledger. And that sometimes can be problematic when you have a more, I guess, more complicated requirement in terms of your stock, something like that, right? So this one's very, very flexible, but then also come with a lot of complexity, okay? So first, where is your warehouse, right? Like it's the same thing when you set up the company, you do charge of account. When you set up your stock, you do warehouse. That's the first thing you should look at. Okay, so I'm gonna go to stock, and I'm gonna go to warehouse. This guy right here. Okay. All right, so let's check what kind of warehouse do we have in our system, okay? And again, it looks like just like accounting because it's just a lot of things that are nested in a hierarchical structure, right? And right now, we have 4 warehouses in our system, okay? The one that you have been doing without knowing it is this guy right here, store, okay? So whenever you buy something and you receive your goods, it already get put into the store. Whenever you deliver something, it already get taken out from the store without you knowing it. It's a default, okay? But then there are other ones that you might be interested. For example, if you're doing manufacturing, when you transfer your raw materials for manufacture, usually we put it in a warehouse called the work in progress. And people usually refer to this as WIP. This is quite a common term in manufacturing context, okay? And whenever you produce something from the factory, it doesn't go into store. It goes into finished good. So FG is another common term that people talked about when they're in a factory. Okay, so work in progress and finished goods is something that relevant for the manufacturing module. Okay, and also if you were to, I don't know, want to keep track of things during the transit, goods in transit would probably be the one to think about. Okay, so for example, you might be, I don't know, maybe if you think about this warehouse as your truck. If your truck is actually moving and then it delivers things, then maybe you can put things in good in transit. Or maybe it actually depends on you. Okay, it doesn't restrict you, but it's just a place where you will store a number of things that correlates to whatever there is in the real life. Okay, all right. So maybe just for a kick, create new warehouse, shall we? So we're gonna add the child right here. Right, just create a new one. Because usually when you set up your warehouse, I've seen companies that have like several hundred warehouse, but it actually corresponds to like multiple shelves on the same room. If you want to be that detailed, be my guest. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a room, a separate room. No, it can be like a shelf, a cabinet, things like that. So I'm gonna just create a new one. I don't know, it's just called the shelf or something. Doesn't really matter, okay? Like that, okay? So just create something new for now, okay? And you can even create more. If you want to go crazy, you can do like folder and things like that, right? Okay, so once you got the warehouse set up, then you can go back into item. So the item will be the next thing that, that you should pay attention to. Okay, so let's go to the item and then look at things in a more specific detail. Okay, so right now, I think we buy pens and pencil for me. So I do have pens and pencil, right? But let's just maybe create a new one just to see, what are the things that more relevant to the stock management. Okay, so I'm gonna go for full form. Okay. All right, so as I was mentioning, item code. So this is usually what they call as the stock keeping unit. Okay, and usually they have a code for it. Okay, so let's be a little more realistic, shall we? So if I were to maybe do another item, I want to be maybe eraser because I have pens and pencil, right? So maybe I can do ER and 001 or something like that. So maybe we can try something a little more realistic. And then, if you deal with multiple systems and you have the same stock keeping unit for all the item, that's the best. Because think about this, when you export this, item to the other software, it can identify, the particular number right away by this code. So usually we keep it, this thing, we try to keep everything unique, for example, okay. So it doesn't make sense to me, so I'll do eraser. Okay, but then, I don't know, 001. So it usually be like a code, something like that, right? But then the name, it can be eraser. Like it can be the actual human readable, easy to read name. Okay. And then the group, okay, so we'll pay a little more attention to the group, okay. So the group is, if you just, trading, then maybe everything for you should be product, But then if you're producing something, then maybe something can be raw materials, the other thing can be product, things like that. So this one doesn't really affect the usage of the item. It's just the way to categorize it. And of course, you can put more item groups if you want. You can make more item groups, okay? Another thing is the unit of measure, okay? So this one is NOS, meaning that it's the by piece, right? But feel free to explore something more. For example, I can have tons of things in here. And if this is not suffice, then you can create new one, okay? So basically, there's a unit of measure list that you can create. So if you want, you can go into that later. But just pick something maybe that's not, maybe I just pick box. I don't know, maybe eraser. So I want these particular things to be sold by box. So I'll just say box, okay? Right? But keep in mind that when you specify the default unit here, it's going to be fixed in terms of like everything, every number that associating with this product is going to be by the box. So this one cannot be changed. So think about it. I mean, I guess you have to kind of decide it right now. If you start using it, then you cannot change it. If you want to change anything, you have to create new one. So you have to disable this one and create new one. And that's very common. It's okay to change things. But usually in the system like this, you typically disable the item and create new one. You don't delete it because it's going to be tied into a lot of things in the system. Okay, all right. And if you want, you can also do the opening stocks, right? But I'll just keep it 0 for now. I want to show you how we put things into the warehouse manually. But this one, it's just going to do it automatically, right? And also the valuation rate. This one is how much it costs, okay? You can put it in now if you know the values of it. But usually I don't put it here because throughout the process of bringing the stuff in, the system will figure out how much it costs through, for example, purchase. That's how much you buy it from. And even if you're going to bring it in by yourself, then you have to specify the valuation rates. Okay, so this thing can change. So this one is just the beginning. So you don't have to set it. Okay, and again, the selling rate is how much it costs, how much the price. Okay, again, if you set it now, it will use that number. If you set it later, it will just fill it in later. So it doesn't have to do it now. Okay. Right? And then the other thing that maybe I mentioned it last time or a couple of times ago is that this one means that if you maintain stock, it means that it's going to start counting the number of that in your warehouse. If you put it, if you unselect it, it means that it doesn't care how many are there. Okay, so item like services would be a good one to unselect this one because you don't count service, or something that that you usually get for, I guess, for free, or it's like you don't count it like water. Like for example, if you have like drinking water factory, they don't really track how much drinking water there are because usually they get it from the tap water. So the water is not the stock item, for example. Okay, so we'll just keep it right now like this. Okay. And another thing that you can go into it is inventory tab. Okay, so this one has more detail on the stock's particular attributes like shelf life and things like that. So this one will affect the when you start to track things by batch and serial number. If you have the expiration date and things like that, it will start become relevant right now. And also you can do weights. Okay, and weights is something that can be calculated during the delivery. So if you want to go in depth into how you package things into what's it called, the packaging slip, then the system can calculate how much this thing's going to weigh, because that will dictate how you're going to pay for your shipping and things like that. So that's kind of the things that are relevant in here. Okay, so that's a lot of things that you can do. And also, if you have barcode scanner, you can also interact with your item through the barcodes. It also supports this too. Okay, like you can do like barcode and put the typing in, things like that. So it actually works. Okay. All right. So the rest I'll go through later when we get into that particular things. Okay. But right now, just hit save for now. Okay. Oh, see, when I have barcode rows on, then they start asking for it. So let me say, where is it? It's like here. I should delete this one. Okay. All right. There you go. Okay, so let's manage this item in the from the inventory management point of view. Okay. So right now, if I were to go to my first, I want to see how much stuff do I have in my warehouse, right? How do I see it? There are a couple of things you can do. The one that I like for the quick glance, it's stock summary. So I go to stock, okay, and then I'm going to go to stock summary. Okay, so this is the one to get a quick glance on it. Okay, so right now I go to stock summary. And again, it only shows the item that, that has non-zero amount. So eraser is not present here, okay? Because you can imagine that in a real company, there's like 1,000 items. So if you show everything, it's too much clutter, okay? And I don't have eraser in me, okay? So that's the first thing I want to check. Okay, so the first step is, maybe I have a company and I want to start with some amount of item. But then, that item doesn't really come through purchase, because maybe if you already have your item and you want to kind of import that item into your stock, like you don't really create a purchase order because you already have it, right? So how do I bring this one in? And that's the power of having the separate stock ledger. Like if you have an accounting software, you want to bring stocks in, you have to purchase it. There's no way other than purchase things. But for here, you can bring it in by using what's called the stock entry. Okay, so that's the main thing we're going to do today. Like anything you want to manage your stock on, you use stock entry. It's almost like journal entry for accounting. Okay, so I'm going to go to stock. Okay, and I'm going to go to stock entry. So that will be the go-to document for the stock management. Okay. All right. So right now it's empty. Okay, so let's create a new one. All right, so stock entry. So the first thing is to determine the type. Okay, so think about your activity. We want to bring the item into our warehouse. Okay, so it's called material receipt. So I want to bring it in. Okay, so the type would be material receipt. So that's the first thing. You have to know the type of your stock entry. Okay, and then the time and everything, it's just pretty standard, right? And also, if you were to, having to type a lot of specify the warehouse, this one would be the one to go to, the default warehouse. So I want to skip this one for now. Okay, and also if you, for the real operation, you can also use barcode here. If you have the barcode scanner, it actually works. Okay. But you have to set it through the item master first, okay? Okay, so right now, I have item table, okay? And when you're receiving something, you want to tell what the target warehouse is. The source warehouse doesn't matter. The system doesn't care where it comes from. It only cares when you are receiving something, where to put this thing into. So the only field that you need for the warehouse part is called the target warehouse. Okay, so I'm going to create the target warehouse, and then I can put it anywhere I want, right? So let's do store, but you can certainly put it anywhere. Doesn't really matter for now. Okay, and the item code. So right now it will be a good time to start to use the eraser item code, right? So that would be something. That would be a the view that you would see if you actually use the real item SKU code, something like that. Okay. So you go by the code, you don't go by the name. But you can also type in the name, it will just filter for you, okay? Like that. And then the quantity, so I will just do, 500, right? And I have a lot, right? Okay. So the other thing that's required is actually this one, the basic rate. So the basic rate is how much it costs. So even though you don't purchase it, but the system actually requires to know how much it costs, right? Because or else, it would just be a free stuff, right? It has to cost something for you. So that's the part where you have to do some estimation. So just the best guess you can, right? Even though you already have it, you probably buy it, at some point in the past, right? So that's something that you have to tell the system how much it costs. Okay, so I would just say 4 baht a piece. Okay, but keep in mind that when I say 4 baht, this one is per unit that I just put it in the item master. So it's actually 4 baht per box. Okay, it's not per pieces anymore. So keep in mind that particular default unit that you use, that's the one that you will associating with this particular rate. Okay, so maybe it doesn't make sense to do 4 baht because usually in a box there are many pieces. So maybe I'll just do 40, just to make it more realistic. Okay, not 4 but 40, something like that. Okay, and yeah, that's it. That's all you need to do. So let's save it. Okay, and then again, if you save, then it will go to draft, and then you can submit it. Okay. Okay. All right. So congratulations, you already managed your stock. You have managed the first thing in your stock. Okay. So we have to have. So right now we already bring stuff in. So how does it affect the underlying ledger in the system? Okay. I can always go to this view, and this is something that I want you to inspect, when you do the project, if it actually makes sense or not. Okay, but for example, in this case, I'm going to go to view, and then there are 2 things. Okay, even though this is just a stock module, but everything's based on accounting anyway, because stock is also the assets. So it's actually going to affect the accounting ledger too. Okay, but let's do the obvious one first, which is the stock ledger. Okay. Right, so in this particular document, you're going to see that there is one item, right, erasers, and in quantity, which is coming in, right, and where does it go? It goes into store, right here. Okay, so there's this item, this many, I guess, amount, right, and then this is the location where it goes. Okay, and also another thing that I want you to kind of pay attention later on is the value of it, which is called the valuation rate. Okay, so this part is the cost of that particular item. Okay, so 40 baht each. Okay, all right. So that's the thing that affects the stock. So as you can imagine, if you inspect the stock summary, then you should see the item available in your warehouse now. So let me do that, shall we? So just to make things easier, I'm gonna actually copy my link and open in another tab so that I can switch around between the stock summary and then the actual documents. Okay. That's another thing I always do, which is to have 2 tabs open, right? The other one for reports. Okay. So I'm gonna go to stock summary. Again, I can always just type it in if I know the name. I don't have to go through the navigation again. Okay, stock summary. And then right now I should have eraser, right? Right, this guy here. Okay. And again, it's in the store. Okay, and you have the amounts, right? If sometimes this particular page needs some refresh because it's catching the data quite aggressively. So feel free to refresh the whole page if you think the data is not updated. Okay. So yeah, stock ledger is done, pretty straightforward, but then it actually affects your account ledger too. So yeah, how does it affect your account ledger? Right here. Okay, and again, the value that's going in, it's 20,000 baht, right? It's interplay between the 2 accounts types, right? The first thing is stock in hand. Can you guess which category this is? The stock in hand is the assets, okay? Because we just bring stuff in, so we got the assets of this much, right? But then the other part is where I was telling you about, you have to estimate the cost. The cost is stock adjustment. This one is in the expense. Okay, so in a way, it's almost like buying, right? When you buy something, it's like expense, right? But then this one, it just go into another type of expense called stock adjustment. Okay, so again, you do pay for it. Like you do have to take into account how much it costs, but it goes through another account type. Right? This one doesn't have anything to do with purchase, but it comes from something that happened in the past maybe, and you just kind of combine all the effects and put it into the stock adjustment. Okay. Okay, so tell me if that doesn't make sense or you're expecting something else. That will be also interesting learning experience for me too. But I've been kind of inspected this thing for a while, so that for me, I accept that this is how it's done. Okay. Okay, so what else can we do, right? Another direction for our goods is to, I guess, deliver it, right? So you get rid of your stock by delivering it to your customer. But through the stock management, we don't have to go through the sales cycle. We can just make it gone, all right? So we can do that too. All right, so I'm going to go back to my stock entry. Okay, maybe like here, okay? And I want to, I don't know, for some reason, even better, I want to give away my eraser for free. Like how do I even manage this transaction, right? It's gone, but I don't sell it. I just give it away, right? I can do that too. So I'm going to go to my stock entry. And instead of do receipt, I'm going to do the other direction. It's called issue. So this one. Okay. And let's see. When you're issuing something, the system only care about where you're issuing it from. It doesn't care where it goes to because it's already out of the system. So the only field that you need to do for the warehouse is the source. So it only care about where the items are, right? It doesn't care about the target. So I already know that I have eraser in my store. So this one you have to have a non-zero amount, okay, in order to issue something, okay. And again, the item code would be eraser for me. Okay, and then maybe I'm just issuing the 20. Okay. Right. So something you can notice right away. Again, there is a basic rate. Okay. But this time you're not allowed to change it. Okay. Even if you try to change it, it will just not allow. Like you cannot change it. And this is the part where this number is quite important in terms of to make sure that you calculate your stock value correctly. So if things that go out it's not the same price as the thing that's going in, then you have some discrepancy in your accounting system. So that's why this one is locked at 40 because this is the cost of it when I bring it in. Okay. Again, if you were to buy the item, then that will be the price that you pay for the item. Okay, so that's fixed. Okay, all right. So you can save it, and you can submit it. Okay, and again, if I check my stock summary, I should have less eraser in my warehouse. So let's check if that's the case. So right now I can refresh the whole page and see the number changes. Okay, right here. It's 480, so now it's and something that you might notice, but I'm not sure if you see the same thing, depending on your state of your sales and purchase. For example, I do have some things in here that has two numbers, right? The number that's on your right is the actual number that's in your warehouse. But then there's number on your left. I think this one is the one that needs to go, or someone that I think in the sales order, but you haven't delivered yet. Okay, so the system do track, how much you have and how much you are supposed to deliver. Okay, but I forgot for some reason what this number is, so I'll check this one for you real quick. Okay, after the break. Okay, but so there are ways that you can kind of inspect, how much you need to order and things like that too. Okay. All right. So okay. And another thing is, again, if you go back to the stock entry, then there are two things, two ledgers that get affected, right? The stock ledger is quite straightforward because you just you just issue things out. So the negative quantity for the particular warehouse, right? That one very straightforward. But then what happened in your accounting ledger? Like once you issue your item, right? Again, you have stock in hand, so that's your assets. So once your stuff gone from your warehouse, then you get the credit, which is, I guess, you have less asset in your accounting category, right? And again, this one is also the expense. So it's actually the reverse expense, I would say, right? I guess you have more expense, basically. Okay. So that's how it works. Okay. Okay, and the last thing is to transfer, okay, for now, okay, because you get things in, you get things out, but then you can move things around, and that's pretty common in the big company, right? Move things to different warehouse, okay. So let's do that, shall we? Okay, so first I'm gonna go to stock entry again, and this time I want to move my eraser to somewhere else, okay. So somewhere else meaning the other warehouse, okay. So I'm going to go to the stock entry type, and then this one's going to be material transfer. Okay, very straightforward, right? Okay, again, for the transfer, then you actually need both the source and the destination, okay? So I want to transfer from the store, which I know where my eraser is, right? And then it's going to go to the target warehouse, which is the new one, maybe the new one that I just created, so shelf. Okay, it can be anyone, any warehouse that you prefer. Okay, and then the item code, which is eraser. Okay. Okay, maybe I just move 20. Okay, and again, when you're moving things, you're not supposed to change the value of your inventory cost. So you're fixed with $40. Like, you cannot change that one. So if you change it, then your account balance will be a mess. Okay, and then yeah, let's do it. It's saved and submit. All right. Again, if I go through my stock summary, then I will see that I do have two eraser entries. I have the one in shelf and the other one in the store, as expected, right? And as you can imagine, that if you have 1,000 items and you have things that are spread around different warehouses, this thing's gonna look really, really cluttered, right? And that's when, if you place things in the right categories, and then you can do filtering quite easily. For example, I can do item group, and if they're products, right, and things. So in the larger system, then create the item group would be a good way to make things more digestible. So that's the reason why we do placing in different item groups. Okay. So filtering would be a good one to use for the large number of items. Okay. Okay, and what happened for the material transfer in terms of the ledgers? Stock ledger. Okay, so when you transfer things, there are two entries. One is going out. So I'm moving things out from my store. So you can see that negative 20 out from the store. But then you have another positive number that goes into the shelf warehouse. Okay, so pretty straightforward, right? When you move things go out from the other one go in. Okay. Similar to like the money going out and into another account, right? Okay, but here's the interesting part, okay? If I were to go back here and I go to accounting ledger, I'm not sure if you're expecting this. Do you expect this? Empty. Nothing happened. Is that weird? I was confused about it for a while. Not for a while, but for a bit. Okay? Can you guess why? Can you guess what happened here? It's nothing here. Yeah, almost. Okay. So let me show you this one. Uh, so right now, all the accounts, all the warehouse is, I guess, associating with a particular account in your chart of account. So I can do something like this. Maybe I go back to my warehouse again, stock, right? I go to my warehouse. I'm not sure if they allow me to change this one after I made some change, but let's try. Okay. So if I go to my maybe the new one that I just created, store, right? And I edit it. There's actually the one that's called account in here. Okay. So this particular field tells the system to associating that particular movement of your stock value. Like what that particular field, the movement of your stock value is going to go into which account, okay? And the default one, if you don't have anything, it's going to go into stock adjustment. You remember like when I do the material receipt and material issue, you always going to have something like in your expense account, it's always going to be your stock adjustment, okay? But you can always do something else. For example, if I were to choose something else, actually, sorry, I was wrong. Okay, this one actually associating with the asset account. Sorry, not the expense, the asset. So right now, if you don't do anything, it's gonna go to your stock in hand account. Okay, but maybe I can do something like this. If you want to do with me, that's fine. If you doesn't want to do it, that's fine too. Okay, but maybe I can go to my charge of account. Okay, and right now, if I go to my assets, right, there's one account that's called stock asset, and this particular one is the one that the system has been using so far when they put things into your asset and take things out from your store, right? It always subtract from here, okay? But what happened if I were to create a new one, for example, like this, and then let's just say like stock 2 or something, right? Stock 2. Stock in hand 2. I don't know. Just make sure that it's another one, right? And then I'm gonna choose account type as the stock. Okay, and then I'm just create new one. Okay, so basically I want to distinguish between a different movement of my stock asset, right? So I want to create a new account for that. Okay. Okay, so I can always do this, okay? And then I want to come back here to my warehouse, right? And I want to make sure that my new warehouse shelf, okay, it's actually associating with that movement into the stock in hand too. Okay, so I want to make sure that whatever transfer into my shelf warehouse get the transaction that goes into the new account asset account called stock in hand too. So that's what this field is, right? And hopefully it allows me to save. If it doesn't, I'll just have to create a new one. Okay, but let's see if it allows me to save it. Okay, so that's fine, all right? Okay, so now I want to go back here again to my stock entry. Stock entry, so I'm going to go to here, okay? And let's do another material transfer, okay? So material transfer, okay. I'm going to go from source, it's going to be store, so where I know where my erasers are. And then this one's going to go to shelf, okay, eraser, and then maybe just do another 10. Okay, and then saved, and submit. Okay, and hopefully, if I get this correctly, my account ledger should be like this. It's non-empty. See what it does? Okay. Okay, please.
It's in here closed.
Oh, okay. I think this is because the period closing voucher. So maybe we can cancel that one. Can you go back to accounting? This one at the end of the last class, I think you do something with this. No, not this one. Yeah. And you need to cancel. So click into here, and you cancel. Yes. Yep. Yeah, because you close for this year, so you're not allowed to make any adjustment to your account. Yeah. So Yeah, so that's the thing that I was mentioning. Like if you do the period vouching, period closing voucher, that means you're done for this year. So you're not allowed to type anything new into your, even though if you do stock, right, but it still affects your account balance. So it doesn't allow you to do that. Okay, so that's a pain, I know. Yeah. All right, so I just want to point out that the reason that last time it's empty because the debit and the credit side goes onto the same account. So this one is typically, it's just meaning that you are moving your asset around. And if the balance just happen to be on the same account and then it cancel, right, to zero, then it just show you nothing, okay? And this is the point that I get comments by the real accountant. So for example, like when you do manufacturing and you move things into the work in progress, like in ERP Next, by default, you will not get any transaction because it cancel one another. And the accountant was complaining like, why, like I want to track that particular transaction in my another account, and that forces me to kind of look into here and okay, we need to make sure we have separate stock account for each of the warehouse, and that way you can track all the transaction for the material that get moved internally. So that's the thing that I found. Okay, so that little things, but could be a pain point for the accountants. Okay. Okay, so maybe you can spend your time 10 minutes or so, take a break, or you can experiment with the stock movement, okay, in your free time. Okay, we'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes. Okay.
We have 2 accounts right now, right? For the ERP.
Okay, guys. I want to spend a little bit more time in the stock module just to show you some of the inner working and how things are calculated in terms of the cost of your goods. Because actually, keeping track of the number is one thing. It's actually I guess will be relatively easy. If you imagine if you want to keep track of number, you can just put all the transaction, make sure the number is right, and then keep subtracting things, adding things. That should be relatively easy. But I think the one that is quite difficult is actually to figure out how much thing costs in your warehouse. And just to show you, I want to do another transaction where let's just imagine that I bring in another eraser for me, okay? And then I will make the price, the cost of it much different, okay? So I'm going to go to stock entry. Okay, I'm going to add in material receipt, right? Okay, and then this time, so when you're receiving something, you should specify the target warehouse. Okay, so I'm going to do store, example. Okay, this one's going to be eraser, and let's see, I don't know, maybe like 100. Okay, and before it was 40 because it actually remembers how much it cost from last time, so that's quite convenient. But this time, it will make it much cheaper. Okay, so let's say 10 baht per box. Okay, for some reason this time it's much less in terms of the costs, right? Okay, so I'm gonna create saved and submit, right? Right. So as you can imagine, I bring the material in 2 times, okay, with different prices. Okay, so first thing, how much does our stuff cost in our warehouse, right? If I want to sell something, I want to make sure that I sell it for profit, right? And that's the job for the stock balance report. I think that will be the best one to go through. So I'm going to go to the other tab because I think it's more convenient. I'm going to go to stock and then the stock balance. So that's my go-to place where I want to check the cost of my stock. Okay. Right, and this one is the report, so you have to generate the reports, okay, like that. Okay, as you can see that there are many things, but what I want to know is that there are erasers, right? But then there are 2 entries here for me because I just move it to store to the shelf. So your items actually get separated by the location too. Okay, so I want to pay attention to the stuff that is my store. So this is going to be the second to last row, okay? And if I go to the right, I will see that my valuation, and this is the price for my the eraser that's in my store warehouse. So as you can see that right now, the one that is in my shelf is actually 40 because that's one I transferred some time ago. But the one that just came in combined with the one that already exists, then give me this much this cost at the current cost at this particular warehouse. Okay, so that's good, right? So we wanna make sure that we don't sell something for loss. Okay, and I want to show you something more because what happened if I were to issue things out, okay, from the store warehouse, right? So I'm gonna create another document, right? This one's gonna be material issue. So let's say I wanna, I don't know, reduce my stock, I give it away or something, right? Get it out, okay? And again, I will do source. So if you're issuing something, you have to specify the source, okay? So source warehouse is gonna be store, okay? And eraser, okay, right? So right now, if I were to maybe just do 10, what happened? So right now, as you can see that if I were to issue my eraser out from the store, 10 boxes, the price is 40, right? So notice this behavior. If I were to do more, what happened? I do 100. Okay, still 40, right? Let me do 200. Oh, okay, actually I need to hit save. I think maybe 300. I'm not sure how many I have, like 500. Yeah, right here. So if I start to do more, you can see that my price actually reduces, okay? And this particular thing has to do with the FIFO, because you can imagine the system actually tracks, when the stuff coming in, right? And then when you want to take the stuff out, it has to take care of the cost. But then since you already have multiple rounds, so it's going to take the first round, the oldest round. And the oldest round, the cost for my eraser is 40 baht per box. But then once I start to issue more boxes, now it's going to eat up, the newer rounds, which is cheaper. So, and this is the part where I think if you try to do this manually, this one is going to get really complicated, right? You got to go through your history, make sure that, whichever batch you are taking things in, and then take the price from that, and then combine with the one that are newer, if you have to, take the stuff from the two batches and things like that. I think that part is pretty difficult to see, and I would guess that the code for doing this would be quite complicated, But this is the convenient things about using the software with the stock management in mind. It does all of this for you under the hood, okay? Right, so I can just safely, I'm more, for me, for this, you can be sure that at least your accounting balance doesn't get, discrepancy because you do taking the stock value in a more, accurate manner, okay? So let's just save it and submit, okay? I guess the part where you do, typing things in is not that difficult, but the part where you have to calculate how much things that are going out without breaking all of the accounting balance, it's pretty hard, okay? Even, I don't want to do it manually for sure, right? Even in Excel too, right? Okay, so that's a good part that I like, okay. Another thing is, I've seen businesses where if you're dealing with heavy stuff, even when you transfer things from one warehouse to the other one, it's actually costly. And there are some certain situations where you do want to take care of that costs, meaning that if you're moving things too often, your product become more expensive, okay? So, and that kind of things you can take care of that in this documents too. So let me show you, okay? So I'm going to do another stock entry, and I'm going to add another one, okay? And this one, let's do transfer. So, if you're transferring eraser, probably that doesn't take that much cost, right? But think about I used to deal with the steel distributor. Steel is pretty heavy. If you have to get the truck, carry it from warehouse A to warehouse B, it's actually quite expensive. And every time they do that, the price increases, the cost increases, right? So so I'm gonna do material transfer, okay, and then let's do source, it's gonna be store, okay, and the target's going to be shelf. Okay, so this one will keep track of the things that going out, going in, right? And then I'm going to do eraser, which is kind of a trivial example right now. Okay, let me transfer maybe 50. Okay, and again, when I transfer, it doesn't. I cannot change the price. I cannot change the rates because the rate is fixed by FIFO mechanism. Okay, but then when I transfer this, there is actually additional expense that occur for this transfer. You can do that here. Additional costs. Okay, so let's explore that a bit. I think it might be relevant to you at some point, right? Okay, so we're going to add in some costs, expense that occurred. So right now you can select anything in here. These are the expense account basically. So you can come up with a new one if you want, or you can use the existing one that's relevant. So maybe I'll just use I don't know. There's a freight transportation. I'm not sure. That this probably not the best one, but you can select some expense accounts in here, okay? And then you can say this one is for like transportation, like okay, transportation. Okay, and let's say amount. I'm moving. I don't know how much. I'm moving 500, so it's gonna be 500 worth. So I don't want it to be too much. So I just say maybe 50. Okay, just okay. So let me save it and submit it. Okay. All right. So first thing is that I want you to notice that this part doesn't deal with the expense at all, right? This part is just purely the amount of stuff that get moved, like the stock asset that get moved around, right? But then once you start including costs, then you see the difference. Like this one has to go somewhere, right? Without the cost, then you get the equal amount, stuff going in, stuff going out, equal amount, right? But now we have this thing, so you have to take care of this thing somewhere, right? So, but first, I want to show you this one. So I'm gonna go to oh, I forgot to submit, sorry. So submit it, okay. And let's check out the stock ledger real quick and see what happened, okay. So right now, I'm moving things out from my store for 50 boxes, right? And then it goes into my shelf for 50 boxes. But check out the valuation here. See what happened here? So the stuff that goes out, it goes out for 10 baht each, right? But then stuff that's going in is actually more expensive because you include the transportation. Okay, and that's a scenario that the company that I mentioned wants. Like every time, if they manage things incorrectly, then your product suddenly become more expensive every time you move things. And this is the mechanism for keeping track of that too. Okay, so yeah, you can do something like that. It's pretty cool. Like if you have to do this manually, then start to become too complicated real quick, right? Again, let's for the accounting sake, let's do ledger to see, what are the things that involved in this, right? As you might notice, right, and you might expect too, right? There are the asset account, right, and there are stock in hand, which is the normal expense for the stock part. But then now you are adding things, another additional expense to your ledger, to your accounting ledger too. Okay, so that I guess that's pretty nice, right? Okay, so in your project, if you want to be more realistic, then you can start, adding this type of charges to your movement too. Okay, and again, it doesn't have to be for the transfer. It can be your stock receipt or stock issue. You can also add the same thing. It's also works the same way. Okay. All right. Maybe the last thing I want to do with the stock is actually dealing with units because this one is pretty common. Okay. So let's say I have a paper. Then maybe I want to deal with it in a different way, right? So I can have a paper in terms of pieces. But then usually you sell things or you buy things by another unit like reams, and also maybe you even buy it by box, right? So how do we deal with this kind of things? So let me just show you real quick, and then I'm sure this one will come up very, very, soon, right? For you, if you want to actually trying to sell something, right? Okay, so let me go back to my stock and then item one more time. Okay, so this time I'm gonna have paper in my item. So I'm gonna add new item. Okay, so usually I have to go to full form in order for something like this. Okay, so right now let's do a code. Just make it more realistic, like paper. I don't know, 001 or something. Okay, and then paper. Okay, and then this item group. Okay, it'll be okay. So I'm gonna use this for manufacturing too. So I'm gonna place this as the raw materials. Okay, just for the subsequent things that we're gonna go through it today. Okay, so I'm gonna place this as raw materials. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep the default unit as pieces. Okay, because this one, it's not too bad. Sometimes I want to deal it in pieces, right? Again, but here's the thing. I want to make it so that I can handle it with different units too. So I'm gonna expand the unit of measure table, okay, and then I'm gonna add row. All right. So right now I want to add one a ream unit, which is 500 pieces. Okay. So if you search for it, I don't think it's there. Yeah. So we're gonna create a new unit of measure here. Okay. So you can do it here, or you can do it elsewhere. You can do it from the actual list. But let's do something like this. Ream. Let me check spelling. One ream. Okay, so that's it. Okay, and one ream equates to 500 pieces. So I'll just say 500 in here. Okay, and I want to do box too. So I think I know that box's unit is already there. So I'm going to say box. Okay, and one box equates to 2,500 pieces. Okay, so 2,500. So that's how you do the unit. Sorry. So something like this, pretty common now. I mean, in your transaction, right? Okay. And let's see what happens if you try to maybe buy something. Okay. So when I go to purchase, just purchase order is enough to experiment with this. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go to purchase order to see what can I do with this purchase order. Right. So this one way back at the beginning. Okay. Okay, so supplier, and doesn't really matter, okay? Just pick one supplier, okay? But we're gonna come here, and we're gonna try to buy the paper, okay? Okay, required by, doesn't matter, okay? And here's the thing, right? Now we're dealing with units, okay? And right, for now, it doesn't show you, I guess you can change your unit right here, right? For example, you can now starting to change it UOM. Maybe I say ream, right? Okay, like that. Okay. And okay, let's think about it. So maybe if the paper maybe costs I guess 1 baht each, just to make it easier to figure it out. So one ream is 500 baht. Okay. Okay. And maybe inspect a little bit. So there is actually the pencil here, right? So let's see the detail of what this is. Okay. So when I buy with different units, okay, you can see that I specify the unit to be, where's my unit? It doesn't say here. Where's my unit? Okay, I think I should stay in here. Okay. Okay. And anyhow, okay, as you can see that I put 500 here, right? But here's the thing. See this? The system still treat the actual cost of your item to be the original unit, which is pieces. So I buy things by ream, right? I put in 500 per ream, but internally the system actually converts it back to 1 baht for each piece. Because the original unit, or I should say the default unit, is piece, okay? It's NOS. Okay, so one thing you have to keep in mind is that when you can deal with multiple units, but underlying, in the underlying stock ledger, any transaction internal transaction, it will convert things back into the default unit. Okay, and that's how it works. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so I'm gonna continue with this. Okay, right. So this one is the 500 per ream. I just buy one ream. All right. So I hit save, and I submit. Okay. All right. So right now it doesn't really affect the stock entry. Or wait, I forgot the. Oh, okay. So I already put in the rate. That's fine. Okay. So right now, let me just make sure that this one goes into our warehouse. So I have to do the purchase receipt. But the purchase order doesn't do anything to your ledger. It's just the agreement, right? If you want to affect your stock ledger, you have to receive it. So I'm going to receive it. Okay. Okay. Again, if I received it, yeah, everything's the same, right? Let me just save and submit. Okay. So take a notice that I accept one, right? One ream. Okay. This is what I typed into my stock, purchase order. But what happened if I view my stock ledger? Do I see one, or do I see 500? I see 500. Okay. I want you to understand this first because it can get confusing. Because if you look at your stock ledger and you see a number and your item has multiple units, then it can be really confusing of what unit it is. So one thing to keep in mind, I think this one applies to all the ERP because I would not know how they handle multiple units otherwise. But the way that ERP Next handle unit is they always going to revert everything back into the default unit, which we specify at the beginning to be piece per piece, right? So even though we buy one ream, internally the stock ledger is gonna transcribe to be 500. Okay, so it doesn't matter what unit you use, right? It's gonna convert it back into the default unit in the end. Okay, and I think that makes things a little more easier to reason with and to remember things by. Okay. Same thing with how you sell. Okay, so maybe I should actually, this one is too little, right? I want to sell things by box, so it's not even enough. But let me just bring the stuff in real quick, just to make sure that I have enough for selling. Okay. So let me just do another purchase order. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna buy. What is it? I just see a lot of numbers. Okay, nothing here. So I'm going to see paper, yeah, and required by today. And then maybe I'll just get 20 reams, okay? And I'll just change it here. Okay, and this one, 500. Okay, so yeah, I got a lot of things in here. And then saved. Oh, I need supplier. Okay, so I'm just save supplier. And again, I just ignore the payment part. Okay, I'm just hopefully this is not happening. Like you get things without paying. Okay, and then I'm gonna create purchase receipt so that I can affect my stock ledger. Okay, and again, I accept 20 reams, right? But as you can guess, if I were to submit this and look at my stock ledger, the number that's how it get recorded is actually is pieces. Okay, it's not ream at all. Okay, so I go to my stock ledger, and again, the things that got recorded is actually 1,000. It's not 20. Okay, I hope that's clear. And that will be if you keep that in mind when you I guess when you inspect the stock ledger, it will be more. I guess it will be more clear what this number signifies, right? Okay, again, when you sell, right, I can create sales order too. Okay, you don't have to sell by units. You can sell by any units you want to. So let's just show you real quick how that works. Okay, so I just create my customer, right, and then paper. Okay, and deliver by, and again, right now you might be seeing that, wait, I don't have units to choose from, right? And it's actually hidden. Okay, so first, if you are looking for something in more detail, you can always click this little pencil here, and actually everything's in here, okay? Again, if you want to find it, it's in here, which is UOM, so I can always select it to be something else. But if you think that it's not, it makes more sense to display here, you can always click at this little button right here. Okay, so let's explore this option a bit, okay? Might make it more convenient later on. Okay, so I'm gonna click this one here, and then I'm gonna add more fields. Okay, so that's gonna be UOM. So let's click this one, this guy right here. So there are stock UOM and then UOM. So stock UOM is the default one, which is piece, and then the UOM is the one that you are selecting right now. So I'm gonna click UOM, add. Okay, and before you click update, there are some certain restrictions where this one has to add to like 12 or something. If not, it's going to yell at you. So before I go, I'm just going to reduce the width for this one to 2, just to make sure that it can accommodate all the columns. There do have some column width limitation, okay? And hopefully I can do it. Yep, I can do it. Now I can have UOM in here, which I can choose to be something else. For example, box. Okay, and again, I can sell it too, right? So you have to imagine like one box, 2,500 pieces. So I mean, I should sell it a little bit more than 2,500 baht. So I'm gonna just do like 2,800. Just make sure that it's more. I have things in profit for things like that, right? Okay, again, sales order. If you save and submit, it doesn't do anything to your ledger. You have to deliver it. Okay, so again, you have to go through the payment and things like that, right? But to affect the stock, you have to deliver it. So that's going to be delivery note. So I'm going to create the delivery note. Okay, and this one's going to get the stuff out from our warehouse. Okay. And again, this is where maybe you can take some special, I guess, attention to where your stuff is getting out of, right? So right now you have many warehouses, and you do have option to set that. If you don't do anything, it's gonna always bring stuff out from your store, right? But then you can always set your source warehouse to be something else if that suits your production, to your operation. So you can choose that. Or you can even go into different actually it's right here, right? You can choose where each item is gonna come out from. So maybe you have 3 items, and each item can come out from different warehouses too. If that's what you want, you can do that, okay? Something like that. So, but I know that everything's in my store, so I don't have to do that, right? Again, what I'm gonna get it out from my warehouse is 1 box. So number one, right? But what's actually happened under the hood in the stock ledger is actually 2,500, okay? As you can see right here, 2,500. Again, everything works under the hood in the default units, although you can have many units to deal with during the sale, the purchase, and also during the stock movement. You can deal with things in any unit you want. It's just that the underlying ledger will always gonna be based on the default unit, okay? So I do expect you to maybe try something with the units, because that's pretty common when you buy and sell stuff in your business. So do explore this possibility, okay? And just to make sure that everything's more complete, I want to go into the item setting and show you that you can even set the default unit when you sell and you buy, because sometimes it can be different, right? So let me go back into my stock and the item, okay? And let me show you that if I select paper, I can always do this. When I purchase, right, I want to make sure that it's going to be in ream, like this. But when I buy, I don't know. When I buy things, I buy in reams, which is kind of weird. I should buy in box. I buy things in bulk, right? But then when I sell things in ream. That makes more sense, right? You take out the box and you buy things in ream. You can even do that. And now when you go to purchase order and sales order, it's going to default to this particular unit right away, which is kind of cool, okay? So so this one is the item master. So go to the item, and you can set your sales and purchase default units, okay? And this is kind of nice because sometimes, you know, like what usually happens is that you want the default unit to be the smallest one. But when you sell and purchase, you want to buy things in bulk. So you're dealing with the bigger units, but the underlying stock ledger is going to depends on the smallest unit. So that's something that generally quite a common practice. Okay. Although you can do the other way around, but it's going to be in fractions, so people don't like it. Like you can do default to be the big units, and you deal with things as a smaller unit. You can do that, but now you can deal with fractional value. So not recommended. If that's, you know, that's, I don't know, but you certainly can design things this way too, okay? So I'm going to save it. And trust me, if you now go and try to do the purchase order, now your units will default into the one that you set it here, okay? And another thing before we go from here, I know a lot of things, right? The thing that people can make mistake is that sometimes they choose unit that's not available. Like we don't, like right now in our paper, right? We only set 2 type of units in here that are, I mean, this one is the default one, so we don't talk about it yet, right? But we set the additional one to be this one, right? But then if you go to purchase order or sales order, right now, the units that you can choose is actually everything, which is too, I guess it's too much, right? So another good option for this is actually go to the setting. I don't know why this is not the default, but usually I do this. So I go to setting, and I go to stock setting. So right here, setting and stock setting. And then I go to toward the end, and I only, I make sure that this one is ticked. Yeah, this one. It's allowed UOM with the conversion rate defined item. So this particular long option is saying that like it doesn't let you select the other unit that you didn't define in your UOM table, which is I think should be the default, but for some reason it's not. So with this option selected, and if you go back to your purchase order, for example, okay, let me just show you. If I go back to my purchase order, and I try to select another unit, like it doesn't let me. Like for example, I do, not this one, I do item, right? And this one's gonna be paper, okay, like that. And now if I try to select another unit, it doesn't let me. Like it only allow me to select the one that I have in my item master. I think this one makes more sense. Like I don't know why it's not the default. Maybe because maybe people get confused if they don't see anything. If it's empty, then maybe they think it's a bug or something. So, but I like this option, right? So make more sense to me, right? So yeah, do consider this this setting. Okay, so I think that will be pretty much for the stock module. We have some time for the manufacturing, so I'll go through them rather quickly because I don't know, are you guys going to do factory? I don't know, you guys in factory? Maybe trading? Mostly trading, I would believe. Okay, I'll show you, But let's just take a quick minutes break, a couple minutes break, shall we?